Hiya guys, it's JB here. First of all, I just want to say thank you to the 600 to getting to the 600. But I thought I'd do a special video for any budding commentators out there who might be listening to my streams or who might have been listening. And I do get a lot of requests from people on Facebook and on YouTube on the message section. What advice could you give me? Because I do get a lot of advice and I do get asked a lot from time to time. So what I'm going to do is give you all my advice in condensed into 15 minutes in this video. This is part of my 600 subscribers season. And what I'm going to do, first of all, before I go on with that, I do like to apologise for no commentaries this weekend. Just needed a break, so I had a bit of family time. So that's why you didn't hear me over the weekend. Anyway, back to what I was saying. Yeah. So literally, really, I'm going to give you all the advice I can in the next sort of 10-15 minutes in this video. I'm going to do for you. And tips for commentating on YouTube. Now, obviously, there are certain things that you do, certain that I don't. Now, I do two types of commentary. Now, on the FIFA videos, you'll see me, or you'll hear me do a FIFA. When I'm doing FIFA, the game is visualized and you see the action in front of you on the pitch. And I do a TV commentary for when I do FIFA, for the FIFA videos. But when I'm doing live commentary on real football games, it's an audio commentary. And the reason I do audio commentary for the real life games is because I don't have the television rights, so I can't use the Premier League rights because I'm not authorized to do that. So I just wanted to let you know what I did, and then people know, because the one I'm going to, first of all, there's a lot of people that still ask, why don't you show the games? Why don't you show the games live and commentate over the top? I can't. For copyright reasons. I don't own the copyrights to any football games that are covered by Sky, BBC, ITV or whatever. They own the copyrights, and the relative associations, the FA, UEFA, Premier League, Football League, they own it. I don't own any of it, and that's one of the reasons I do not show live moving pictures of football games that are taking place at the same time as I'm commentating. So that's why you'll hear audio commentary as opposed to a television commentary or watching, so it's a radio commentary and it's my own voice, it's my own work, and I put a lot of effort into the videos, as you'll find out. So my first tip is quite a simple one, really. If you are planning on being a commentator and you want to do radio commentary, which is what I do week after week with the other guys, Ross and Mike and Chris and a few others, what I tend to do is paint the picture. Now, you've got to look at your audience. I've built an audience, and there's a lot of people like Sue, for instance, is sadly registered blind, and she's the only hope of any football fix each week. So I'm sort of the man that has to give her some football fix nearly every week, and she relies on me and the boys, and me and the others, to produce the commentaries. And more often than not, she gives good reviews about us and the work we do, and she benefits from it because she gets a football fix, and we enjoy the feedback that we get from her because we're enriching her life and her enjoyment of the game by bringing them commentaries to her. And that's why I do radio. But the good thing about doing radio as opposed to television commentary is you've got to be more descriptive. You've got to paint the picture to the listener. I think it's important that you do that. You've got to give the score. I've got a couple of golden rules. I see what I see. I say what I see, basically. It's the best piece of advice I was ever given by a guy called Barry Swain. I did a commentary workshop one year down in Derby, and I commentated on a six-a-side indoor tournament that the commentary workshop ran. And the biggest tip I got was Barry had pulled me over before commentary. He just said to me, "You ready to go, John?" "Yep." "Just say what you see, son. Say what you see." And he said that to me, and that's the best piece of advice I've ever been given by anyone in the business. So my advice to anyone who's starting out in commentary or are thinking of setting up something similar to what I do is just basically say what you see and say what you think. Obviously, you've got to choose your words carefully. If you're doing it as a family show, you can't obviously swear. That's one thing I wouldn't expect you to do. I would expect you to do because you know you've got to talk to the listener, make the listener think he's actually enjoying what you're providing, and you speak to the guy. And another thing, you speak to the listener. You don't talk down because when they're listening to you, and they might even, I mean, they might be watching the same game as you're commentating at the time, and they may have any different interpretation to what you have. So you've got to listen to other people's opinions. Now, the second important thing, preparation is an important tool in any commentator's trade. And this is a case in point. Now, I do notes. Now, other commentators on my network, like Russ Vernon, for example, uses a laptop to do all his prepping and work and that. I still use the John Motson method of pen and paper. Now, I do have all the statistics. That's a mental thing as well. I also have the BBC website as a good source of information and stats. But as far as the teams are concerned and the numbers, I always write them down so I know what the numbers are, so that helps with identification. I have the substitutes there should I need any of them. If any one of those comes on at one time, I know, like for example, Mkhitaryan, number 7 is going on straight away. I think that's Henrik Mkhitaryan. So he would come on, say, to replace Nicola Pepe, for example, for Arsenal. This is Arsenal-Tottenham from a few weeks ago. And then, of course, I write down all the officials. Now, I always make now this season especially, I've tried to make a bit more of an effort with the officials. Obviously, I always knew what the refs, now especially some of the newer refs that I've never commentated on before, I try and find out where they come from and how old they are and stuff, especially the FIFA ref. I mean, when you get the European games, you get actually good information, UEFA, FIFA, Premier League as well. And they can also tell you the linesmen where they're, you know, I can work out who's far and near side assistants, fourth officials, of course. But I try and find out where they come from, how old they are, especially on European nights where you've got to tell people that this referee is a 42-year-old bank clerk from Germany because he might not, you know, referee might not be his only profession. So you've got to tell the listener what this referee's like, and is he a strict? Is he a sort of a fair sort of referee that'll let a game go, or will he be the sort of referee that will stand no nonsense? But I do like to prep though. I do like to do a bit of prep. I do a few statistics as well as I said, and some good references as I said, Opta, BBC website, a few other bits and bobs. But I tend to use notes, and I tend to, you know, I only refer to the notes just to the identification of the players, nothing much. Unless it's a boring 0-0, then I will come up with some dash statistic and stuff like that. And then, you know, if there's nothing much else to talk about. But, or of course, you know, you just leave the statistics to one side and you just read the comment section. But that's one of the best ways of doing it. But prepping is important because you never know what might happen. I mean, you know, there are times where, you know, if you underprepare, you're prepared to fail, and I think that's an important thing. Never take yourself too seriously is the next tip I think you want to have. I mean, you're never going to please. I mean, when I first started doing this some 2 or 3 years ago, I used to get criticised quite a lot because I was biased and Christ knows what. But I always never took myself seriously because I had to learn that, because at the end of the day, you're just describing a football match the way you see it. Now, other people may not agree with that, and the trick is not to take it too seriously. Take whatever you get thrown at you, whether it's quite a lot of praise or criticism, you take it with a pinch of salt and don't take yourself too seriously. You do what you do, and you enjoy what you do. I mean, I do commentary. I don't do it to make money. from YouTube. I don't do it to earn. I mean, the subscribers I've got are brilliant, and if people enjoy the videos and enjoy the commentary streams, then that's great. The viewership's more important to me than having actually making any bumps of this, because that's not why I'm in it. I'm in it to broadcast. I'm in it to do it because I enjoy broadcasting. I enjoy talking to people. I enjoy sharing my enthusiasm of football to people. And I never try and take myself too seriously, and I always try to have a giggle with some of the comments, because we do get some funny comments. We do get some hilariously funny comments coming in, and everyone loves a giggle when we do the commentaries as well. You know, there's quite a lot of seriousness, because there's, you know, the game we're commentating on is serious. In, say, for instance, it's Man City Liverpool. There's a title riding on it. There's a serious element to it, but we can have a bit of light-heartedness as well. There's nothing wrong with having light-hearted banter, as long as you keep it clean. So I'm all for not taking yourself too seriously. The one thing I used to get levelled at me quite a lot in my time, in my early days, was the amount of Burnley games I've done. Now, I've tried to cut down on doing some Burnley games, but I'm a Burnley fan. Now, I did one game, I think, Burnley against Spurs a couple of years ago, and Tottenham got what looked to me like a dodge, in my humble opinion. And I wasn't talking as a Burnley fan, because one or two Tottenham fans thought I was talking out of my backside saying that's not a penalty. But Dele Alli, I made a mental note some weeks before that he dives to win penalties, or he did do, and he went down very easily. I think in the 4th minute at turf, and it didn't look a penalty. I still maintain it to this day it wasn't a penalty, but the referee saw it differently. Michael Oliver, he gave the penalty, and Harry Kane got the first of what was in the end a comfortable victory and a hat-trick for him. Nothing much you can do about them, but it did look a dive, and I still maintain it was a dive, but a few Spurs fans accused me of being biased towards my team. But I mean, you're obviously going to get biasness rubbed against you, but the trick is to rise above it. You know, I come from Burnley. I want Burnley to do well. It's like, for example, if you're in England, if you're an England fan and you're commentating on England, you want England to do well. Or if you're Scottish, you want Scotland to do well, and Wales, and so on, and all that. So, you know, there's going to be bias and criticism aimed at you, but the best way to do it is just to take it with a pinch of salt, right back, and do it positively. Don't ever be negative in your comments, you know, because, you know, if you make a negative comment against someone, that's a listener, you might be alienating. It's all right when you get rid of all the spammers and things like that, and people swear, because you don't want people that swear and be horrible on the channel. Yeah, you can get rid of those. But if a listener's giving you constructive criticism, your commentary was more towards, say, Tottenham than Arsenal, people are going to say that. But it's just how you ride the storm. That's, I mean, I've done it for 3.5 years, and that's the way it is. Now, some people accuse me of being biased, but there's sometimes I can be biased against. Sometimes I can be very, very neutral, even when I'm commentating on, for example, let's just say, because I'm from England, I want England to do well. But 3 years ago, when we did the European Championships, we played Iceland, and I had my doubts, because I'd seen Iceland against Portugal in the group phase, and I knew they were going to be good from set plays, especially from the throw-ins. And I think they scored in one of the games against Portugal. In one of the games, I think it might have been against Portugal, where they scored from a flick on, from a long throw-in. So I knew straight away that they'd come at us on set plays. Obviously, they went 1-0 down. We got a penalty. Rooney stuck that away. But I knew this was never going to be a cut and blow dry. And I remember that it was probably one of the worst nights of commentating I've ever done. Because of England's exit, it was, we actually got Roy Hodgson's resignation live on YouTube. That was a cracking little coup for me. But I'm not scared to criticise England or even my own club, Burnley. If they've had a bad match, I'll criticise them and think, what could they do to do better? So it's not a question of being biased towards the team. If I've seen them in action, and I've commentated on them, and I don't think they've been good enough. Like, for instance, Burnley played Everton at the back end of the season. Even though they stayed up, I still wanted them to do well. They didn't do well enough over 90 minutes at Goodison Park last season, and they should have been beaten 2 or 3 or 4-0. In the end, we came away with I think it was a 2-0 victory, but we never really threatened. I know we had a goal marginally chalked off for offside, but in reality, we never looked like getting into the game. So, as I say, never be afraid to criticise if you see a certain team play badly. I mean, I've never been afraid to criticise England. I mean, when we lost to Iceland, I criticised Roy Hodgson, and obviously we questioned why Rashford wasn't brought on sooner for that game. But that's the way it is. Right, anyway, I'm going to finish off with a positive. 5 significant games I've actually covered, and these are any games I can pick from. And I've done over 200 matches live as either a commentator or presented, because I've done a lot of presenting because we've got other voices now. We've got Russ, we've got Chris Whiteman when he's available, and Mike Harniman when he's back off holiday. He'll be full time for us. So I'm always involved in more or less every broadcast of a match we do, whether it's in a commentating, whether it's just in a commentating capacity with someone else presenting, or it's me presenting with a different voice commentating, or it's me combining the 2 roles. So I'm always involved in all matches. I've been involved in nearly 300 live and delayed matches. I've got to pick 5, and it's a tough job because there's been some memorable games over the last 3.5 years I've commentated on. At number 5, this might be an odd one to pick, but I'm going to go with England 1, Iceland 2, because this really was, we weren't to know it at the time, this was the turning point, I thought, in English football. This was the lowest point before we built our way back up under Gareth Southgate. England had stumbled through the group stages. Of course, they drew 2 and narrowly beat Wales by the barest of margins. And we went into the game against Iceland, as I said, thinking we could have easily had Portugal, but we got Iceland, and it was still going to be tough though because we had to play France. Should have, we got through that night, but we didn't, obviously. And it was a game remembered for some rank defending, some poor goalkeeping from Joe Hart, Rashford almost saving us at the end, and we just didn't play well. And I was over it, and it's the only time I can remember coming off air and throwing my headphones down in disgust. I would actually go as far as to say that was probably the worst result. It cost Roy Hodgson his job, as it happens, because he resigned the next day, or he resigned later. In fact, he resigned some 25 minutes after the whistle. So I remember staying on air at the time, and what I do remember is that it was really frustrating. But I knew Roy had to go, and I sort of knew. I had a premonition once the whistle had gone that night that was it for Roy Hodgson. I knew his contract wasn't being renewed after the summer, so I knew he was either going to be he would die, he would jump or be pushed, and sadly he jumped before he could be pushed. But I thought it was the right thing to do at the time, where Leamington and Gary Neville also left with him as well. But he looked to spend force on that touchline that night, and that's the vivid memory I take away, as well as the 2 Iceland goals that they scored. And as I said earlier, it's all mental notes and that. My 4th significant game I've ever commentated on is the cup finals, and is the cup final, I think, the FA Cup final last year, because even though it was a very one-sided 6-0 victory over Watford for Manchester City, history was made because City, by winning that FA Cup before that, had won the League Cup on penalties against Chelsea in a very drab final, and had won the Premier League by a point, pipped Liverpool to the title by a point the previous Sunday. So they were going for the domestic treble. Watford, they were playing to win their first ever trophy, major trophy in their history. So one way or the other, history was going to be made on that day. It was Manchester City's day. Obviously, they were just too good for Watford, and I must admit, I mean, it was one of the most one-sided cup finals I've ever seen. But you have to say that some of the football City played that afternoon was out of this world. It was just scintillating from start to finish. They were in complete control of the final. Watford just they looked to spent force from the semi-final. They hadn't won in so many games since the semi-final. They still haven't won this season, as I talk to you now. And it was a tough day, but City were terrific. They equalled the biggest winning margin in a cup final, which was Bury, I think, back in 1903. It's a 6-0. So it was very historical for those two reasons. One, they'd equalled the highest ever score, winning score in a cup final and an FA Cup final. And two, they were the first team to compete the domestic treble, in fact, a domestic quadruple, because they already won the Community Shield at the start of that season. Game number 3 on my list is a Burnley game, and the reason I say this is because it's Burnley Crystal Palace from 2017. And I'll tell you why it was one of those games. It was one of those topsy-turvy league games where things just happened. It was just one end of the field to another. It was done as a delayed commentary because it was a 3 o'clock game. But I remember that the commentary was memorable because of the finish. Burnley had gone 2 goals clear, and then in the second half, Palace had got back to 2-0, and then it was the last minute, and Palace had won a 3 kick. And I remember Di Marni going in there on the second ball, winning it, and getting the ball to Barnes. Barnes ran about 10 yards, played it to the right-hand side, but he played it a little bit too much, played it a bit too casual for Gudmundsson, who then had to work a miracle to get the ball in from the right-hand side first time. Meanwhile, Barnes is making a break, hits this slow, receives the ball by the penalty spot, he's onside, he goes 1-on-1 with Mandanda, and he smashes it past the Frenchman into the back of the net. And it was one of the most explosive finishes to a Burnley game I've ever commentated on. It was one of the brilliant things. And it came out with one of my best lines. We have a new superhero in town. Is it a bird? Is it a plane? No, it's Ashley Barnes. Which was quite amazing, really. So that would be third in my list. The second game I'm going to do, number 2, is the World Cup final. The World Cup final last year, France against Croatia. It was a big night for me. My first ever World Cup final as a YouTube commentator. I was describing a World Cup final. It's a big deal. It could have easily been Chris Whiteman doing it on another day, but because it was falling on a Sunday and it was 4 o'clock, Chris decided to do the third place match and I'd do the final. And my reward for the final was a great one. Okay, England weren't there because they lost out to Croatia. A little bit in controversial circumstances in the semi-finals. We should have won, but we were knackered after those bouts of extra time in the previous round against Colombia and of course against Croatia. So we were knackered anyway. But I remember the final very well. It was a game full of controversy, mistakes. I remember it pouring down with rain and the Croatian president and then all the officials fetching around for an umbrella, which was quite amusing. It had everything in it. One of the greatest games of football, one of the greatest World Cup finals I think I've ever seen. And believe you and me, in my lifetime, I don't think I've seen many great World Cup finals than that. But as far as spectacles were concerned, but that was certainly one of those. And number 1 on my list has to be the Champions League second leg from last season between Liverpool and Barcelona. And I originally wasn't going to do the second leg because Barcelona had raced into a 3-0 lead. You may remember from the first leg when Messi scored a 3 kick and that. But I had a sneaky suspicion. I was a bit to and fro before I went on air that night. Should I do it? Should I not? In the end, I decided to do it because I just had this little feeling in my head that Liverpool on a European night, when the chips are down, when the chips are down and the odds are really truly stacked against them, They always produce their best football on a European night. When the Anfield crowd is right behind them, they are you're usually good. And you just felt that sense in the air as soon as You Never Walk Alone went strained by. It was just one of those nights that make hair stand up on neck and that sort of thing. Anyway, they scored. Obviously, they needed 4 goals, but you still had to keep Lionel Messi. And I'll never forget Lionel Messi. From memory, I don't think he had a kick the entire night. It was one of those games where it was just ebbed and flowed. It was a commentator's dream, and obviously to do Liverpool on a crucial European night at Anfield is a commentator's dream, really. And to have this particular one, it was a real thrill for me. It was an enjoyable game, second leg from start to finish. It was remarkable. Liverpool went in front. And then Ronaldo came on as a second half substitute, and he changed the complexion of the entire game. Scored 2 quick fire goals in the second half, and it was 3-3. And then 6 minutes from the end, I nearly lost it. I completely lost my bearings because I'd seen the mother of all comebacks. And it came from an unlikely source, Divock Origi. For most of last season was an outcast. Wasn't considered as until a last resort. Came in and he was the hero because he was also a very quick thinker that night because Liverpool won a corner on the near side, the right hand side, and there was about 8 minutes to go or something or other, and they needed another goal. Otherwise, it was extra time because the aggregate scores were level and there were no away goals as such. There were no away goals because Barcelona won their leg 3-0, Liverpool winning theirs 3-0. So as things stood, we were going to go into extra time, and I remember, and it was a corner, and Alexander-Arnold took this quick corner. Barcelona switched off, allowed Divock Origi to sneak in behind, onside, and stick the ball away past Ter Stegen, and the goal was given, and I couldn't believe what had just happened. But it was one of those magical moments where you'll never see the likes of that again, and that what brought Trent Alexander-Arnold to life as a top quality footballer because of his quick thinking and his quick awareness and things like that. And full marks to Divock Origi with a terrific finish. And Liverpool went on to win that night and went on to win the European Cup quite conclusively in Madrid 3 weeks later. So they're my top 5 games. I hope you've learnt a lot from this video tonight, and I hope you've enjoyed. Okay, thank you very much for watching. Have a fantastic day, a fantastic night as well. Until then, take care. Before you go, let me know what the best commentaries you've have listened to over the last 3 years on YouTube. I'd like to know what was your favourite game that we've covered for you, and tell us why you think. It should be. You remember that game more than anything else. I'm sure Liverpool fans will remember the Liverpool commentaries we've done, Burnley fans, likewise, Tottenham, so on. But if you agree with my selection of 5, or do you think there's another game that's deserving of cult status from our commentary archive, let me know what you think. But yeah, that would be interesting to know what you thought was my best commentary in 3.5 years of you doing these audio commentaries. So let me know what you thought. You think in the comment section below. Okay. Anyway, I hope you've got some value out of this video, and jogged had a few memories jogged with some of the games that I picked as being the greatest games I've ever commentated on. It's in my 3.5 years as a fledgling YouTube commentator, and I hope you've enjoyed it and got value out of it. I certainly did. I've certainly had a lot of value enjoying it, making it, even at midnight as we speak. But I hope you very much enjoyed it. Don't forget to, if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell as well, so you get notifications on stream, new videos, FIFA videos, and the like. Also, if you want to leave a like, please do. We need the likes for the videos. It's for you guys that I make them. It's not just for my pleasure, it's for your guys' pleasure as well. Anyway, till next time, have a fantastic rest of your evening or whatever, or if you're seeing it tomorrow morning, have a good morning, and I'll see you very soon. From me, JB, take care. And again, thanks for the 600 subscribers. Every one of you, give yourself a round of applause. Take care. Bye-bye.